although people are welcome to still come in and out. Thank you all for coming today. First of all, to the community day, but also to the panel. And thanks to those who are joining us online. We're also live streaming, so
Casual.
in real time.
No pressure.
No pressure. I guess you didn't realize you were live today.
Yeah, I didn't fix my hair.
It looks fine. So today we're talking a little bit about, because it's Earth Day, we want to talk a little bit about sustainable practices like B Corp, like carbon neutrality and carbon offsetting. So we put together a really great panel for you guys with folks that are experts in those areas for different reasons. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in a second. But first, I have a couple announcements I have to read off. So give me a second. So for today, I just want to remind everybody that we have a happy hour over at Mordecai from 4 to 6. So everybody's welcome after this to hang out, keep co-working, take meetings, whatever you need to do. And then from 4 to 6, we'll have a happy hour over there. The other thing we wanted to talk about is that we have a women's group, an innovation women's group that's starting up. And so Becca from our team, who's floating around here somewhere, we don't have a date yet for that, but if you have an interest, please reach out to someone on our team, Becca or myself, and we'll get you connected there. The next community day, which is May 18th, from 2 to 3, we're going to have a really cool workshop on crowdfund investing. So for those of you that aren't familiar with crowdfund investing, crowdfunding, it's a combination of crowdfunding for your business where the individuals in the community or your friends or your family can actually take a piece of investment on that project. And so this was something that legislation in recent years has actually changed to allow. So we're going to do a live crowdfund investment here where the audience helps us choose what we're investing in. Cool. So that's May 18th. So that's going to be kind of fun. And then the last little announcement is that we'd ask you guys to do something good for Earth Day. So there's a QR code here at the top of the front of the desk in the front of the room. And if you scan that, it will prompt you to put in one simple act of something good you've done today. It can be as small as recycling your plastic bottle from today or composting your food. And so we've made it very easy. We have recycling and compost right there. And we compost our paper towels in the bathroom. So even if it's that, it's just kind of fun. And then you can challenge your friends to do the same thing. So our team has been doing it all day. So if you want to do something good for Earth Day, why not start right there? So those are my little announcements.
Cool.
And what we'll do at this point is we'll move down the line and do introductions. First of all, I'm Jess Porta. I am the director of Raleigh Founded. And in addition to running this co-working space, we also do a lot of programmatic things to help businesses connect to the tools and resources they need to be successful. And so that looks like everything from office hours to connecting them to funding to developing programs and things like that. So we've always been very community minded. We've come from a call from the community. And one of the things that was important to us at the beginning was becoming a certified B Corporation. So that's why I'm moderating this panel today. And I'll chime in on the B Corp side of things when it's relevant. Alex, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you. I'm Alex Lassiter. I'm the founder and CEO of Green Places. We are an end-to-end solution for businesses reaching sustainability goals. Probably talk more about what that means,
yes.
But
yeah, we will.
Yeah, maybe I can stop right there. We're a software and we work with a bunch of companies in a lot of different ways. So really excited.
Including Raleigh Founded.
Yeah. Including and many Raleigh Founded companies. And we're also a tenant of Raleigh Founded.
Yes.
Started in Raleigh Founded. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're in it. Yeah.
It's our cheerleader. Yeah. Braden.
So I'm Braden Rawls. I'm the CEO of Vital Plan, and it's a company that I founded with my dad over 10 years ago. So he's a conventionally trained physician, had chronic Lyme disease, and discovered herbal therapy to rebound his health, but then also saw the gap in the industry of quality of products. And it was very difficult for his patients to find trusted products and have the education and support to be successful with the products. So really from the beginning, we founded our company based on integrity and commitment to quality and changing the way people think about taking herbal products and shopping with an herbal company. And so building our business with integrity from the beginning has been really important for us to establish trust with our potential customers.
Awesome. We go back a bit. So my name is Christina Marino. I'm the founder and principal of Noel & Co. The reason I'm here is partially because I run a certified B Corporation. Makes sense, right? We're a marketing and strategy consultancy. And the reason we exist is if you're here, I can pretty much guarantee you have a story to tell, you and or the organization you work for. And it is our passion to help you get that story in front of the people that need to hear it, right? Like we win by amplifying what you do. But I've been in the B Corp movement for, oh my goodness, like 8 to 10 years now. I actually interned at B Lab, the nonprofit behind the B Corp movement. Fun fact, audited Ben & Jerry's social and environmental business practices. And yeah, right?
I didn't know that.
Fun fact, it was Willy Wonka. I mean, for real, except not creepy. And pretty much like that day in Vermont, I'm like, I'm sold. Like, this is my career. I believe business can and should be a force for good. And so I've worked at B Corps, I've worked with B Corps, and now I run a certified B Corporation.
So let me throw this question back at you. Can you explain what a B Corp is, just so that we can level set? I think most of the time we talk about B Corps, it's we're defining what they are and we go on and on. So I want to just level set what a B Corp is so that we can spend time talking about the tangible things we do.
Sure. So, I mean, now I'm kind of curious, who knows what the B stands for? Danny? Yes. So B Corps are for benefit corporations instead of a C Corp or an S Corp. That's where the B comes from. Where this whole movement started was through a certification. So B Corp certification is to an entire business what USDA organic certification is to milk, or fair trade certification is to coffee. Except instead of certifying that a product is awesome, B Corp certified that your business is amazing, that your business is a force for good. So B Corps are businesses that it's both a movement and businesses that are also committed to like maximizing stakeholder value. So the environment, your community, your shareholders, your governance, as well as your employees.
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful. And my background is in human rights. It's in nonprofit work. And so, what got me interested in working for a company that was a B Corp was that there is I felt like you either had to choose, like that you were either, working for heads down for business, trying to help somebody else make the most profit, or you had to give your soul to, nonprofit work, and both, and that, which is really important, but I didn't know there was sort of a middle ground. And so I think it's really, for me, that's what's attractive as somebody who's an employee that's passionate about that. And let me ask this more broadly than just B Corp, because there's other ways to do good, and we'll get back to that. To all of you, what do you feel like, why would somebody, other than just doing the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing, why would somebody be interested in being a B Corp, or just generally using business as a force for good that can be through carbon neutrality as well?
Sure. I think there's the obvious, I think the idealist side of me that would say, like, why not? Like, why, like we're here for a reason. Like, we should do some things that are good, like, while we're here. And it doesn't mean that work has to be bad. We can work in a way that's beneficial for the planet, beneficial for our communities and for people. But there's like real pragmatic reasons for it too. I mean, we live in a world now where, for the first time in a really long time, doing good for the world is actually really profitable. And it's a great way to like make more revenue. And it's a great way to be able to make more lasting relationships with customers. And that's kind of the world that we want to be in. I think I think for a long time, we rewarded businesses that did things poorly, and we rewarded businesses that did things in a bad way. And I think we're really lucky that we live in a time now where, you could say that the majority of employees want to work at businesses that are a force for good. The majority of customers want to buy and spend more money and more hours of loyalty with businesses that care about the planet and care about the people that work for them. And ultimately, the market values those businesses more too. So I think that I think in a lot of ways, it just
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense in every way you look at it.
Yeah, I would say that's true. Somebody actually this morning, I was just on a call with, is it Bar Taco?
Bar Taco.
Yeah, they're looking at becoming a B Corp.
They are.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had a great conversation. And they asked me, they want to do it for the right reasons, but they asked me about the ROI, the return on investment. And so I was sharing a lot of things you were talking about that nowadays there's a pretty direct line. You don't have to stretch it very far to see that people want to invest in companies that are doing good. I mean, Braden, do you see that? And with Vital Plan, do you feel like
Yep,
that's a selling
certainly.
point?
So we've been certified as a B Corp for 6 years. We got certified just about alongside Raleigh founded through the entrepreneurship
Yes.
clinic. And when we first got certified, we put the big B logo with the circle.
Yep.
We started putting that across our website and all of our packaging. And we had customers comment that they thought it meant we were grade B because they were so trained to think of that system.
That's hilarious.
So we really have had to incorporate
Yes.
in, and now we put business as a force for good with the B symbol. And really 6 years ago, people hadn't heard of, they'd
No.
never seen
Right.
the B logo
Yeah, that's
before. It was totally new. So the more companies that we can onboard to this movement, the better, because then it creates that awareness. So for our business, we've woven this integrity and transparency and trust into just the DNA of who we are and the framework of our business. And that's very hard to communicate with customers. How do we say, but we're quality, we're really quality compared to the competitors that are just saying that. And so B Corp is this third party certification that we can use to communicate and say, well, we've been audited. And that's helpful for us, especially in a business where we're not doing a grand movement of buy one, give one, or there's no signature campaign. It's lots of little things in the fabric of who we are. And so that extensive B Lab certification has been really helpful for us because we can improve our score with each certification, but then use that score to communicate to our community and our customers the impact we're having.
Christina, do you want to?
Yeah, like I'm a huge fan of the accountability and transparency, right? Like it's one thing as a founder to be like, I'm going to have a mission-driven business, but I'm a marketer, right? Like there's very much vision and then there's reality. And so, whenever this certification was started, interestingly enough, it was started by two guys who built And One, the basketball apparel brand. Anybody know?
I didn't know that.
Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, I know And One.
Yeah. So they built
It was the coolest shirt you could get when you were a kid.
See, cool brand, classic entrepreneurial story, right? Like they built this cool company, they took care of their employees, they felt like they manufactured pretty ethically, they scaled it and they sold it. And what happened is when they sold it, they felt like pretty much everything that made it special was stripped out. And so in that position, they're like, like they knew what they were doing. They don't act like they didn't, but that was the standard for what you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur, right? Like that was the American dream. And they're like, why is that the American dream? Like, why isn't it that we're thinking about how we bake in our mission, and bake in our values, not just that it's a founder caring, it's how we do business. And so that's why they set out to create the certification. And I love that, right? Like, by getting certified, it forces you every 3 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Every 3 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 for me, but
2 to 3. I think
do you get 3?
I think they might have just bumped it. Okay. Are they making special?
You're an overachiever.
They didn't ask me. I just
Everyone
sent
else
it
says
in.
3, but you do 2.
Yeah. So every 3 years, you're looking at this assessment, and it's free online. Anybody can use it. It's a great tool. It's bunimpactassessment.net, but it's asking you to look, are you taking care of your employees? Like, is your business growing, and how are you giving back? And what is your business model? And, it holds you accountable to start asking, how can I do things better? And every year it gets harder, which is both awesome and also hard. But because of that, impact's a journey, and it holds at least me and my business accountable to stay on that journey and to keep questioning and to make sure that we we don't lose sight of why we exist.
And that's a great point. So if somebody's like interested in thinking about their business or your friend's business or something to become a B Corp, it's really not a commitment to go onto the assessment and look at you. It's so transparent. You see all the questions. So you would know ahead. It's not like taking a test. You would know ahead of time, like what your score is. So you'd say, oh, I'm 20 points off the score. What do we have control over? Because some things you don't have control over.
Yep.
We always score really low in environment because we don't have any environmental output. So we don't get any points taken away, but we don't gain any points, for instance. So, but there are other things we could dial up and dial down to make that number work for us. So that's a great point. Anybody can use the assessment. Did I see a question? Do you have a question?
I actually have two questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So for doing your audit or assessment,
Yeah.
your review, how much time is that really taking away? Do you need a designated person to handle that within your company to make it possible so that you can still keep everything running and it's not taking too much away? And is there a cap on your rate for stuff? Like, is there is there a certain percentage that you have to
Gotcha.
keep within?
Okay, so the question, will you repeat the question?
Yeah, so
Or you-
just to confirm, can you do it yourself?
Right.
So we're a tiny business. Yes, you can. Granted, though, like I was an intern, so I kind of have a competitive advantage in being able to do it ourselves. Is it hard sometimes to do it yourself? Yes. Is it extremely rigorous? Yes. To get 80 out of 200. I mean, it depends. There's certain business models that like lend themselves to being like, if you're a solar panel company, probably going to be a bit easier to get over that 80 out of 200. But if you're like Raleigh founded, y'all worked so
It's a
hard
lot.
to get that
Yeah.
certification.
Yeah, because I think if you're not familiar with it, it's 5 categories and it's, we talk about B Corp a lot and it's Earth Day. So I know our heads in the environmental space, but environment, as I mentioned, is actually one of our weaker categories for that reason. And so there's other categories like governance and community and employees. And so they're looking at everything from how, what's your maternity leave policy? What's the makeup of your founders? Like, where do they live? Where do you buy things from? And so you'll notice like we buy, we have coffee from 321 Coffee and Larry's and yeah. And so, I mean, we want to support our community. We're already doing some of those things. That's an area where we could get points, whereas we might not get points in another area. So different types of businesses will naturally score higher and lower in different categories, and that's okay. Every business, I think, has the ability to do some things like we just didn't have a child labor law policy. Like it sounds like you should have a child labor law policy, but we just didn't have one written. So the assessment gave us the opportunity to rewrite our child labor law policy or to just get one in place. Did you want to comment, Jason?
Yeah.
Yes.
They want you to get the certification. So they are there to help you
Right.
get to that level. And when you get recertified, they're not coming in to audit you and
It's not
take the red.
That's
They want you to be successful.
That's right.
They are right there with you.
They want you to be successful. They also want to bring big companies on board. So there's also tiers, and you probably know this better than I do. Whereas if you can't qualify for B Corp just because you can't change enough practices to meet that score, you can become like a B Corp partner as a larger company, and it shows that you're trying, right? You don't get the certification, but you do get listed in this like gold and platinum partnership. Yes, ma'am.
So in order to get that partnership designation,
Yeah.
do you have to be a vendor or do you have to be a supplier of that larger company?
No, it could be any type of company, if I'm understanding your question correctly. Do you have to be a vendor?
Saying you can do it as a partner of a larger company?
Oh, sorry. They call them partners. So that's just the designation. So like, for instance, if there was a very large company that would really struggle to become a B Corp just because they're so big, they'll call them partner companies and just have them as a B Corp partner instead of an actual B Corp, if that makes sense. So that's usually where, like, if a larger company can't fit into that, I just bring it up because, again, even if you don't feel like your company could hit it, there's other designations. And So, and then to answer your question, we do designate a person to do it. You don't need a designated person year round to do it. So I would say, like, if there's a team member who can put 2 or 3 months of a project-based time, that's probably what you're expecting, where you can just download all the questions, literally, figuratively, and go through and assign them out to people that might know the most about them. And then that person's just managing the process. That's kind of what we've done.
Yes, there are resources. So like I know Raleigh Founded has worked a lot with interns over the
Yeah.
years. And there is, Braden, did you do the B Corp clinic? So we'll have you talk about that. There are consultants. So, especially for large organizations or ones that are like, I do not have the capacity to do this. So if you ever need referrals there, like there's some really great consultants as well. It just depends on your goals.
That's right. And also, if you can't, if B Corp, like getting the certification might not be something that you want to do, or maybe you do want to do it and you want to do something extra, there's another great thing that you can do, which is offsetting your carbon footprint. So do you want to explain what that is and how your company works?
Yeah. So Green Places was started kind of with the vision that there's a world where businesses and the planet can thrive at the same time. Like that's kind of the simple premise of what we believe. And we recognize that businesses have, within the realm of sustainability, have a lot of requirements. They have a lot of challenges, and there's certainly a lot of desire, particularly among employees and customers. But it's really hard. Like companies that do this really well, like a Ben & Jerry's or like a Patagonia or Nike, has teams and teams of people that think about sustainability on a daily basis. A head of sustainability can be a 7-figure job. And even in companies that have that, they still have teams around them. So we started Green Places largely because we felt like there were a lot of businesses that wanted to get there, but didn't have the resources to be able to do that. It's just not tenable for a business to hire that many people focused towards something like this to be able to do a great job. So Green Places is, we call it like an end-to-end solution, but we basically do 3 things for businesses. We integrate with the tools that they work with today, and we pull the information that we need to be able to understand what their carbon footprint is. So we have a team of carbon accountants that take all the information that we know about your business, and we calculate your carbon footprint, which, believe it or not, has a standard. And we adhere to an international standard that stands up to all levels of scrutiny. And that helps us understand, like, truly where are emissions coming from in your business. The second thing we do for businesses is we help them kind of take action. So once we kind of know where you are, our job is to help you like improve on those things. So we have playbooks where we look at the different sources of emissions you have, what type of business you are. We can help you kind of like lay out, like, what are the things that are actually in your control that you can do, which is really hard for businesses. So a lot of folks think, just go buy solar panels. But if you're a tenant of a larger building, you don't have the ability to buy solar panels. A lot of businesses say, well, you can't get on an airplane. Well, like, not a lot of businesses can do that, but are there better ways to fly? Yes. And are there things you can do? Absolutely. So we help people kind of map out those things. And sometimes some of those things are, let's reduce the impact that we have. Some of those things are, let's invest in the environment and let's find ways to be able to support things, whether it's carbon removal technologies, whether it's planting and protecting trees, whether it's like specific projects that target climate and environmentally related things that we really care about as a business. We help businesses do all of those things and kind of improve where they are. And then the last thing we do is we help businesses communicate and report that out to the different stakeholders they have. So, if you're a business, depending on the size, you may have a number of different stakeholders. You might have customers that really care about this and they need to know that. So we build you a website that very clearly and transparently explains, where are you? What are you doing? Where is the progress? Employees really care about it. We connect with tools like Slack and other things to be able to sort of get them engaged. And then for bigger businesses that we work with like publicly traded companies and really large businesses too. And some of those folks have investors they need to report into, and they have standards they need to get to, and we help with all that stuff as well. In some cases, if somebody's a B Corp or they're trying to get there, the environmental component of that is hard, and our system makes it easier to both document where you are, but also improve those metrics to increase those scores.
Yeah, and the employees are a great piece. And I'll ask you to speak a little more about that in a second. I wanted to grab the question. Oh, yeah. What was your question?
I was just wanting to elaborate on the points you were making earlier for resources.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
focused on this as well. So I've been,
Oh, good.
working with
Yeah.
them as well. So just wanted to make
That's
sure
right.
that-
And that's at NC State. So just for those following online, she was mentioning the resources that NC State has to help people get to at least go through the B Corp process. So just to come back to, you mentioned employees for a second, but I think it's really important
Mhm.
because one of the questions I wanted to ask was, about how COVID has sort of changed things in the way that companies operate.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to hear from all of you, because I know you have completely different experiences, how your business has changed personally, but also you and I have discussed before the mindset that employees have now coming into the expectations and mindset they have now coming into work, what that looks like. So maybe just down the line, if you want to address that now.
Yeah. I mean, as a company, we started our company in the pandemic. So we were kind of like built for this world to some extent. So we've built everything that we do around being able to move and work from wherever, which has been really great. So from our side of things, it's been really easy and natural to like operate in sort of this new world. It would have been different in my previous company to try to like retrofit some of that stuff. We've been very lucky. And particularly with partners like y'all, we've been able to like seamlessly move between offices and been able to grow and deal with situations that are unique to our business, where like half our employees are remote. And so when they are all in town, we can expand a little bit of space and all that type of stuff. It's made it be really flexible for us. But yeah, the question on employees is a good one. I mean, I heard somebody describe it the other day that, starting at the kind of the midpoint of the pandemic, every one of your employees is an unrestricted free agent. Every employee now has the ability to get a job anywhere. And as an employer, you have to earn the right to have that employee work for you every single day. You don't have a choice. And I think that's a great thing, because I think for a really long time, the power has shifted a lot towards the employer away from the employee. And I think that's great. And I think that we want to be able to do that stuff. I also think that employees and just people, I think, are waking up more to like what's important to them. When I had a company before this. So when I started my last company, the formula was like pretty easy. You get like a ping pong table, you allow people to bring dogs in the office, and like you can hire anybody. It's true.
It's true.
That nobody cares about that anymore. I think what people want is they know that they're the most valuable resource in a business. Like, I certainly think I'm smart, but my main job is to recruit and retain people. That is it. I came up with an idea, but beyond that, all I do is just clear the path for employees to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that's going to get us where we need to go.
Yeah.
I think employees want to feel valued. I think they want to feel like the work they does matter. Obviously this is Earth Day. So people have climate anxiety. The vast majority of your employees, whether they say it or not, think about climate change on a weekly basis. The last report I saw was 78% of employees think about climate on a weekly basis. Nobody thinks about climate positively. So that means 78% of your employees have climate anxiety on a weekly basis. And so we all believe in what we sell. We all believe in what we do. We all believe that we're making the world a better place. But in reality, a lot of your employees go home at night, they turn on the news, they look on Facebook, they look on their phones, and they're worried. Like, this is an issue that's very important to them on a daily basis. And if your business is not responding to these things, even if you believe, look, I'm a small business, I'm a software company, co-working space, my employees don't care about this, we're not Shell, we're not Conoco, like this isn't our thing. I guarantee you, your employees are looking at you and are saying, which side of the fence are you on? Are you going to either get on board with this or are you not? And to me, that's an opportunity. That's not something that I get scared of. I'm like, this is great. Employees can tell me what's important to them. There's a flip side of everything. Employees want to work where they're valued, and yes, they can go get paid more to go work at Red Hat or anywhere else. But what are the things that I can do to be able to attract employees and make sure that they feel really valued? And truly, when they go to work and they do their jobs and they come home at night, do they feel really good about where they did it? Yeah. And I want them to hold me accountable to that every single day. That's awesome. And the minute that they stop doing that, then we won't be successful anymore. Yeah. So.
I think that's great. And, the environment, you make a good point about the environment. That's a big piece of it. And then also you mentioned some of the remote work kind of, talking around that work-life balance. I think it's also just worth mentioning. We all have small children at
Yeah.
home, and some of us had very small children at home.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we're also kind of relieved that this is coming up at this time period for us,
Well, I think it's one of those things where I think for definitely the first time in my lifetime, and I'm sure for a lot of folks, like we all got something that we all took for granted taken away from us for a year and more. Like everybody did. We've all known people that have been affected. The things that we love, going out to eat, hanging out with friends, like going to see our grandparents, like going to see our parents, all that stuff like that. The things that we I think all just sort of like woke up every day for generation, was just suddenly taken away for a while. And there was like a period of time where, I mean, I remember I was talking about this with my wife the other day, but like, I remember watching the news one day and I heard somebody get on TV and say, we're good. We have discovered that this will not wipe out the human race. And I was like, what? Like there was a time period that we were like, that's what we were thinking. Like, this is incurable. Like this is it. And it just reminded me that like, this is a time where I think a lot of people took a big step back and was like, okay, like, let me reassess. Like nothing is guaranteed. Let me make sure that everything that's important in my life, my family, my where we spend our time all day, our work, the things I enjoy, where I live, what I do, people have woken up to that. And if there's anything good that came out of this, I think that's probably the thing to me that sticks out as good is more people we're going to stand up for what they hear about. And it's not just money. Yeah. It's like other things.
Yeah. I mean, Braden, how have you seen that both with, you can speak directly about employees or just pre-post COVID kind of?
Yeah, well, so our business is rooted in preventative health, which can be a tough sell, but we certainly have seen a shift post-COVID and people being more aware of the actions they need to take and seeing the value of the healthcare system, but then also realizing its limitations and realizing that we all have a responsibility for our own health. We've seen people be more open to change in general, change in the way that they shop, to the brands they shop for, and even for us, open to herbal therapy, someone who was never open to that before. So it's just been this great opening of minds and change of habits. And I also want to mention within the B Corp community, I think the third big theme that we've seen emerge has been anti-racism. And that's really emerged during COVID, but has become this, I think, a huge movement within B Corp to be more inclusive and be more open to promoting diversity as an organization. So that's been the other big area that we've been working on this year.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that is a piece of the B Corp assessment that we didn't call out directly yet, but yes. And your hiring practices, your makeup of your staff and employees is also a big piece of that.
Ooh, I love what you said, Jess, earlier. BCAC, before COVID, after COVID.
That's what you heard it here first.
I, before COVID, had thankfully started this crazy life transition, right? Like I'd worked at a certified B Corp, and yet Braden and I talked about this years ago. I was sick. I was really burned out, and that is not on the company that I worked for. It was multiple things. A lot of it was on me as a leader and how I worked and what I thought value came from, right? Like I was like, I want to change the world, so I should be working all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's on me, right? And there were a lot of systems that didn't work, right? Like I worked at a company that cared so deeply, truly, and yet we worked on a heavy, impact area. So child sexual abuse and aquatic safety. Spent 3.5+ years thinking about, trying to keep children from dying. I mean, that is heavy. And then I was also volunteering all the time, which was super fun, but still, right? Like we're just human and we're all human, and you can't, serve from an empty cup. And so, like one great example is like that company, and this is so relevant for COVID, is we had, there were discussions around like it was okay to work from home in theory, but like culturally, I felt like I could get away with 1 to 2 times a month, right? And I needed like at least a day a week, right? I present as extroverted, but I'm introverted, and I do really good work at home. And also because I'm social, I'm not that productive at work, right? Like I can't not talk to people. So it is very good for my productivity to be at home away from people
Yes.
where I, cannot work. So I straight up decided on a Friday and put my 2 weeks notice on a Monday in. And then it was about a year of just crazy wandering. A few of you saw that journey, and it was messy and hard. And so my life had already been like uprooted a few years before COVID happened. And so having gone through that, I'm so thankful I started a company, right? Because I was able to ask, like, what do I need as a human? What do I need as a leader?
Mm-hmm.
I built a company that worked for me. And now, like, COVID just brought all of that out in the open for everyone else. Like, why am I driving, 5 hours plus a day to and from work all the time? That being said, though, like, I also really miss people. But I just recently hired on a team member, and I asked her what her career goals were. And she said, I want to be able to have a job where I can work at home. That's literally what she said. And I'm like, great, no problem. Right? Like we can do
Check.
that. I mean,
There's a few of those
Done.
now.
I mean,
That
that's
should no longer be a goal, though. Like,
Right. That's not really the goal.
I was like,
right.
goal of your career.
yes, we've continued that conversation. But on the way here, though, that same employee was like, so, we should meet. And then can we meet next week? Right? Like, can we hang out? Like, we still need human connection. So, I mean, post-COVID, after COVID, it's, we spend more time at work than we do often with our friends and family, and it should matter. And it should. And so the heart of it is, it's not even like practical business terms. It's like, how do we treat our talent like people? How do we take care of them? How do we shift and not infantilize them? Anyone who's watched, what's it called? Severance, y'all. So good. So good. So good. Give it a few episodes. It's really dark, but it's good. And so whenever we look at like where we're at as the B Corp movement, I mean, George Floyd was a really dark time. I think there's not one person in here who hasn't had mental health challenges. And so where we're at is just, it's hard. And so, anytime I ask a friend, it's like, how are you doing? And they're like, great. So they get that look on their face. And it's just, how do we change our systems and our businesses and our relationships to acknowledge that, like, we need community and we need to be treated like people and we need to take care of our community and world.
So and I think a lot of what you're talking about are some of the practices that we all do, but I think it's worth spending most of the rest of our time, and we'll open up for questions and comments and things too, talking about some of the tangible things that we do at our companies that people could steal those ideas if you want. So I'll start, and maybe you guys take time to think about them. I think the most important thing we do, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. You just mentioned mental health. We all have brains, so we all have. So surprisingly, if you have a brain, you probably have experienced some kind of mental health issue, even if it was not a prolonged issue, because different parts of our brains are responsible for different things and get triggered in different ways. And so it's much more, I think there's a greater awareness around mental health needs, but not every company leans into it as much. So I think the best thing we do is no questions asked mental health days. And so these are not sick days. There's not an amount of them you can or can't take. These aren't vacation days. These aren't personal days. These are no questions asked mental health days. And you don't have to tell your employer why. You just let us know that, and it can be, I need to go home right now, or it can be tomorrow, or it can be, I need a day next week to recoup. We also pay attention to giving space to times that you don't normally give space to. So primary caregivers. So we have primary caregiver leave. If you have an elderly parent that falls and you need to go for a couple of weeks, that's not bereavement, shouldn't be vacation. It's not a sick day, but you can have that time. My first pregnancy ended in miscarriage. There's not maternity leave for miscarriage. There's not bereavement because it's not a person. It's very complicated. It has to do with your body, but it's not necessarily medical leave. And so I took leave for that. and didn't have to ask permission to do that, right? And so, and that's the type of culture we want to build, but also we need to specifically give those days. I also think, doing tangible things in terms of diversity, and I think it's great that we're having these conversations, but just having like just having a program that isn't substantial is not enough. I think hiring practices is where it's at. So we practice, people disagree about this, but I think the Rooney Rule is a great practice. And so that means for every job opening, you interview at least one woman and at least one person of color. And that to me is great because it makes you put a candidate in front of yourself that doesn't remind you of yourself, so that they have a fair shot at getting hired. And so I think those are some of my favorite practices that we do that are sort of in line with the B Corp movement. We also do volunteer. We set a volunteer goal as a company. So every year we try to get 200 volunteer hours. And so that means that we also have to give our employees days or half days off paid. They're salaried, so it's all paid, but to go and do a volunteer activity. So we either do it on a retreat or they can do it, but they can do it during their work hours, and it's not an expectation above and beyond. Or you can sit on a board that counts of a nonprofit, for instance, and so we'll pay for that and cover that. Other things, I'll share more as I think of them, but whatever you guys.
We're a pretty new company, so we started less than a year ago, and I would say the average employee tenure is probably less than 3 months. So there's a lot of these things that I'm here to learn, and we need to adopt some cool stuff. I hadn't heard of the Rooney Rule, but we're going to implement. That sounds great. I think that this probably isn't a great one because it's not really like an official policy, but I think we have a culture at our company of just sort of like trusting each other. Like, and maybe that is kind of like being out of the pandemic stuff, but like we don't really like our paternity and maternity policy is just take as much time as you need. Like, we'll take care of it. Like, if somebody has something going on, it's not like I need to ask for approval.
Yeah.
Like job, like we just sort of support each other.
I heard somebody say it focused on the other day that she's focused on outcomes, not output. So it's not how much the time, right? It's what the outcome is.
I have 3 kids under 5, like I don't, like there are many days where I'm just like, this is what you have to deal with. Like, and
there's gin in these.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I think we just try to understand that people are people, and it doesn't matter what your tenure is at the company or your status at the company is or whatever. Like, I think we just trust people a lot, and we just, it's like, look, like we just trust that you need to do what you need to do. And like, that's fine. I mean, again, because of like the family stuff, like to me, like family is always going to be more important than anything that we do.
Absolutely.
And I guess if there's anything that I'll enforce, it's that people like take vacations and go spend time with their family. Cause as much as I love to care about our company, like we're a company, it's work. Like at the end of the day, like, the company will continue on after people leave. So people need to take care of their families first and make sure that's the most important thing. So that's not as much of a policy. It's just, I think, like how
a culture.
Yeah. It's just how we sort of approach things. Yeah. Just trust the people you work with,
Yeah.
If you don't mind me interrupting, speaking of family, I have a child with a cold at home. And so I at least wanted to like chime in, and then I'm going to go relieve my husband. She's 10 months. It's her first week in daycare. And we were hoping it was allergies, and I made the call. I was like, I'm going to this panel and then I will come back home. He was like, okay, I got you. I'm like, it's B Corp. And he's like, okay, I got you. But that actually, like, there's 2 things that we do that I'm like really proud of. And number 1 is flexibility. And it really ties to family. Like, we can't always pay you the best, but we can be flexible. So like sometimes a question will come up like, my daughter has this thing that I can go to this morning. Can we move this meeting? And I'm like, obviously, like, let me know, but obviously. So the flexibility thing is so huge. Family is so huge. And then the other thing that we do is FYSO. So all of you a few of you know about it. So those who know it are laughing because it stands for figure your shit out. So my consultancy pays the bills by working with companies with product market fit, right? Like they have a successful product or service and they want to get to the next level. And so they can invest in marketing. But as a mission-driven company, like what about the baby founders or early stage founders or founders that are, still finding their way, right? I kind of alluded to a pretty rough journey for my first year as a founder. And so every year at least we have a cohort where we put founders in the 6-month program. It's mostly about community. We empower them to start with what kind of company do I want to build? What are my goals? And how do I build a business that's as sustainable for me as it is for what I'm setting out to achieve? And then I would love to say that we have some cool tools or something like revolutionary. No, it's just having a program called Figure Your Shit Out and bringing people together in a vulnerable, safe space and community and like connecting them. That's it. Like they joke, they're like, FYSO is my mental health support group. We are not therapists, but together they do lean on each other. And doing that has been insanely rewarding. So October, FYSO.co. If you're any kind of founder, we're doing the program again and we're going to test out a founder summit here. So
I'm really curious what's happening above us because there's not a floor above us.
Yeah, what is that? Is there something on the roof?
Yeah.
that's terrifying. And on that note, I will leave to go see
Yeah,
my
you-
baby.
I'm waiting for somebody.
You go ahead and we're going to wrap. Braden, do you want to add in?
Sure. So we are in the middle of our recertification.
Oh.
So for the past 6+ months, we've been
Right.
working towards this goal, and
That's
so
a closet.
It's been an opportunity to reevaluate, and so some of the low-hanging fruit that is free and doesn't cost anything is just putting the framework in place to document your business as you are growing. So having an employee handbook and continuing to add to that handbook. We added an ethics policy this year, which I think we're an ethical company. Why do you need an ethics policy?
Right.
But as we grow, it helps to formalize, and then that document's there that an employee could reference or say, this is formally the way
It's
that we
right.
do things.
That's right. Yeah.
So those are all things that are required for the B Corp assessment, but that you could get a head start on that are going to be great framework for your business. And B Lab helps to provide that documentation, or the NC State Clinic. So that's where I would recommend starting. And I also wanted to share a story from over the past 6 months. As we did the assessment, we looked at the environment section. And so we're primarily health and wellness business. We've scored low in the environment section. And so we said, we want to take some steps there. And for us, the most glaring opportunity is that our product comes in these white plastic bottles that's very standard for manufacturing.
Yeah.
So we said, we're gonna change our packaging. And it turned into an explosive project. I mean, it just totally snowballed that we looked at, let's look at glass, but actually the footprint of shipping glass compared to plastic is heavier. So then we looked at aluminum, but then there's sustainability sourcing issues, and you have to have a very high volume. And then we looked at compostable packs versus plastic packs. But if they put their compostable pack in the recycling, there were just so many factors. So we finally just had to take a step back and say, well, at least with all that time, we identified that there was no low-hanging fruit opportunity as we had hoped. But so my advice would be to just keep in perspective, what is the primary goal of your business, and really focusing on that impact as you grow. And then as you grow your opportunity, your volume and your team. So for us, we've said, all right, we've done the audit of packaging. We've put that on the roadmap. Now we're focused on growing our volumes so that we can, and hopefully have someone who can be in charge of that whole project.
Right.
So
Growing the volume in the sense that you need less.
You get to a point where you can scale up to the point where you can hire somebody for that.
Hire someone who could oversee it, but minimums for a lot of these packages were much higher volumes than where we are. So that would open doors.
Yeah.
But just a lesson to keep in perspective of, for us, we're now really doubling down on the health and wellness, and talked to our board of directors, and they had said, your you're really having this amazing impact in health and wellness. And so even though we're deeply passionate about the environment, also keeping that in perspective.
Yeah. And I love what you said about, getting things that you think you're doing well down in writing, because like we're ethical, we had the same, we got tripped up when we were doing sort of the scoring on something really silly like training. And so we just thought we were good at training our employees about, it was about employee rights and disabilities. And it was also about your diversity inclusion. And we were like, yeah, we care about all of those things. And we tell people about those things when they join. But in terms of me being able to find like a tangible training that we created, I couldn't. And I was like, wow. So maybe actually like what I think we're doing really well is not getting communicated to our employees. And I want them to know they have a safe space here and that sort of thing and what their rights are. But we weren't. Maybe it sort of challenges like, are you really doing that? Or are you just, is that in your mind? I've taken us almost time. We might have time for like one question, and then we'll stick around for a minute if people have others. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious whether it's in the B Corp community or broadly, organizations around mental health and their employees. Because obviously since the pandemic happened, the rate of depression amongst people has tripled.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see whether that, along with the social justice movement, has been something.
It has. I've seen a couple things from B Corp on mental health, and you've probably seen those in passing too. And then, but I've seen that just in our own, just within our own staff. And one of the problems is, even if you offer really nice insurance, they don't always cover appointments. So one of the things that we have done when that case has come up is we offer, I should have brought this up to what's called a wellness stipend. So it's just something small. We don't have a lot of money, but it's something small, like $100 a month per employee that wants to take advantage of it. And they can use that to, right now it's specifically for mental health. It's if somebody needs to go to therapy and they can't afford it, we pay for it basically.
Wow.
But in the future, where Laura and I were just talking about this yesterday, we want to expand that to, if you don't feel like that's what you need, maybe you can pay a gym membership with it, or maybe you get a massage or your nails, like whatever is good for your self-care is good for your mental health. So
I'm curious whether companies are starting to integrate facilitating more around mental health within the office. Like as an example,
Yeah.
we run events.
Yeah.
Mainly around maternal mental health, and I feel like that's something that,
That's great.
whether it's maternal mental health or like you mentioned, having the climate, like to be able to facilitate with therapists that resource or activists or whatever, to just be able to have these conversations and help people like process what's happening. Not necessarily like, here's we're going to have your therapy appointment, but like how can we as a community also support our own community, our employees?
Yeah.
Because we are in a very kind of turbulent time.
I think you said it well. That there's an element of like we can cover your therapy. That's something, but I think it starts with creating the space to normalize having off days and conversations about mental health. But maybe it's not a place where you're inviting a lot of conversation to your staff if a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but more so creating the space to allow people so that you don't feel like when your boss says, how are you doing? You have to say, good, great. That you can give an honest answer of like, and that's how our culture is. I would say like people come in and how are you doing? And it's not a depressing place. It's just, I'm allowed to say that I slept for 3 hours last night because I have a 4-month-old baby. That I'm clinically alive, but dead inside. And that's an okay answer where I work. I mean, do you want to add to that? You're also a new mom? Clinically alive and dead inside. Well, on that note, I think we do need to wrap because it's 2:00. So Braden and I will hang out a little bit. Alex and Christina had to jet and they're sorry about that. But thank you guys again. Please hang out a little bit. Join us for the happy hour after if you can. And it was a great discussion. Thank you, Braden, and my former panelists. Thanks, guys.